We'll talk about ball courts. We'll talk about ball courts, like very briefly,
good. Okay,
and then
briefly.
okay.
So the ball courts show up extremely early in Maya civilization. So thousands of years BC, there's already a ball court in the center of town. So it doesn't look like it was just this incredibly potent religious experience. It could have just been a game that people were playing to have fun with.
It seems like an amazing game. And in Chichen Itza, they've got the largest ball court, and oh, it's fabulous. Hi, I'm Donna Lynn. Welcome to Travel Angel. My guest is Gerardo Aldana, professor of Ancient Mesoamerica and in the Department of Chicano Studies at UC Santa Barbara. And we're talking about everything Mayan. We hope you saw the first show, so this makes sense, but we're talking about the ball courts. The ancient Mayans had this fabulous game that's kind of similar to soccer. They played in big fields, they played in smaller fields. Can you please tell us about the game?
Sure. It looks like there were a bunch of different ways of playing it, actually. And so there are hypotheses recently that come up that say that gigantic court at Chichén Itzá, for example, wasn't the same kind of game that they were playing in classic Maya times with a very large rubber ball. It may be that the court was so big because they were using a smaller ball, more like racquetball, and they would use a handstone to hit it with. So you'd need a much bigger area, and the game would be a lot more intense because the ball would be moving that much faster.
And the rings are different sizes at each ball court.
Right, and some courts don't even have rings. And so the whole idea of a ring and putting it through there to make it like an eclipse, or some people say you put it through there to end the game, that was just another regional variation, and it would have changed over time. Some of the very early ball courts we have don't have rings at all.
I need your help, please, because I don't really know. I mean, I'm told that the captains of the games, it was an honor to die. And so, I mean, of course they want to win the game, and whoever wins the game basically gets sacrificed.
Yeah, we don't know that. So during the early 70s and 80s, 1980s, 1970s, 1980s, that's when the decipherment of hieroglyphic writing really started to kick into gear. And so people started to read things out of the hieroglyphs that didn't really hold up over time. And one of the theories connected the story of the Popol Vuh, which is many people call the Mayan Bible, right? That story to the way the game was practiced. And so you would see some imagery. For example, at Chichén Itzá, you have this large carved image in the ball court that shows one guy with a ball and shows another guy and his head's chopped off, and instead of blood, or the way they represented blood, was just serpents spurting out of his neck. And so people thought, well, let's put all these things together, and it could be that whenever somebody lost the game, they got sacrificed. But we don't have archaeological evidence showing that, and we don't have inscriptions telling us that that's explicitly what happened. The better evidence that we do have comes from the Aztec records. So Spaniards would come in and they would describe what they were seeing, and the real problem they had with the ball game wasn't that people were dying, it was that people were gambling too much on it, and they didn't like the gambling going on.
It's the same as now.
So exactly, right? What's the biggest part of football these days? It's betting. So it seems like there are these extreme kind of fanciful ideas of what the ball game was about, but in many ways it seems to have just been another sport.
Well, the ball courts are fabulous, and at the Chichén Itzá site, which is only like a 2.5-hour ride from Cancun, there's amazing acoustics. The whole Chichén Itzá site and many of these archaeological sites have this mathematical acoustics, which is amazing. In the ball court, when you clap your hands, it echoes 7 times, and I find that fascinating.
It's fascinating, and there are people who are trying to take that seriously as an idea. Was that intentional or was it not? Is it an artifact of the people who reconstructed this architecture? Would it have been different when it was covered with stucco and paint? Would it have made the same sound? There's a lot of research that still needs to be done to figure out if this is an accident or if it was intentional. But it's a lot of fun to go out there and just do it, to whisper at one end of the ball court and hear yourself on the other, have somebody hear you on the other end. It's pretty neat.
Well, what little I know, maybe you could clarify and correct or whatever, is that at the ancient ball courts, the people watched from above. In Chichén Itzá, I wish I could show you a photo now, we'll get it up later, but in Chichén Itzá at the ball court, It's a huge ball court, and the spectators watch from above, and there's an upper chapel or an upper temple of the jaguars where there's bas-relief sculptures of jaguars in various designs, and then there's a temple of the bearded man, more lower to the ground, and on the other side of the ball court, on the exterior, there's a lower temple of the jaguar with a jaguar throne where maybe Kukulkan sat during a game. And so, I mean, my imagination is like all of these spectators are watching the game, and the two teams are playing, and the captain is playing. Although you just told me that's not true, going for the honor of like winning the game, so that he can be sacrificed, so that he could skip maybe the 13 levels of not purgatory, but something, so that he could like go to like the Mayan equivalent of heaven. But now you've just ruined my fantasy. No, I'm kidding.
Sorry
No.
about that.
but I want the truth.
It would be nice just to also like push that and think about not just the Maya who are playing the game, but the people who are milling about, the spectators. And there were probably vendors then too, and you could buy a cup of chocolate out in the stands. And what I really love about that is it makes them more real. We can see Maya people hanging out doing this. We don't have to think of them as these esoteric, very different other people. They would have been doing the same stuff we would have done if we had a ball court.
And there's something very special about Mayan chocolate.
Oh, no question. Yeah. We should show there's a hieroglyph for cacao, which is the basis of Maya chocolate. And so it was really wonderful kind of decipherment when scholars saw that they have these vessels that look like cups, tall cups. And on the outside of them, they say, this is a cup, yokib, for drinking chocolate.
Wow.
And it has chocolate, right, the glyph for chocolate right on there. So it's nice. Chocolate was grown in a lot of the Mayan regions, so it became a very important trade commodity, ancient roots in Mexico.
We'll have to get Maya Nestle to help sponsor us. Yum yum. And also as part of the Chichen Itza side, on the exterior of the ball court, in the ritual plaza area. So it's the El Castillo Temple of Kukulkan, and then facing the Temple of Venus. And when you stand there and clap your hands acoustically, you also, I didn't think it was 7 echoes, but still it's like acoustically amazing. And from guides, we were told that Kukulkan would be the only person, like maybe the high priests, allowed to climb. It was his temple, his palace. And he would be able to speak in a normal speaking voice, hello. And from the top of the pyramid, there would maybe be 50,000 or so people, Mayans, and they would be able to hear him, and there would be, like festivals, rituals. And on the other side is the temple of the warriors. That's where the statue, Shakmul, basically is a statue, and is that, and he's, and gosh, scary, savage stories of I don't know if it was the warriors or human sacrifice, who, why, but they would break people's chests open and rip out their hearts, and the heart only like beat for like a few seconds, and they would place it in the bowl in the lap of Shakmul, and to the rain god Shak, so that it would rain. I mean,
again, a lot of speculation is going on there. One of the really difficult parts about trying to get into Mayan religions is that the texts that we have that describe the rituals were written by Spaniards who were, for the most part, writing them relative to the Spanish Inquisition. So all the stuff that was going on in Europe with the Inquisition, they were developing the kinds of laws to really come down on witchcraft and sorcery in Europe. They developed this document called the Malleus Maleficarum, which is, they call it the hammer of the witch, right, against the witchcraft. All of those ideas then found this fertile soil in Mesoamerica. So whenever they saw something that looked like it had to do with blood, well, it must have been witchcraft. If they see something that looks like
heretics,
anything, any way that they could take the categories that they had already constructed and then place them on these new people to show that they needed to be converted to Christianity, it just made the case all that much better. So it's really hard, I think, to get back and understand that, okay, there may have been some kind of human sacrifice in this civilization, but was it just an elaborate version of the death penalty that we do today, a more public version of it? Was it like the public hangings in London, like in the 17th century. What was it?
Which trials?
Which trials? Or was it something much more mundane? We can't get at that because there's already been so much built around the interpretation of that religion. It's really tough to do.
And Chichen Itza, maybe I've heard the translation, the well of the mouth of the warlock of the waters.
Right. There's some interesting history behind that, the reading Itzá.
What does Chichen Itza mean?
So Chichén Itzá just means the mouth of the well of the Itzá. And the Itzá people were an actual ethnicity. They were a group of Mayans who were, the stories tell us that they were foreigners arriving into the Yucatan late in the post-classic. So, yeah, and there's a really big, amazing cenote, or chen, which is the Maya word. So a couple things there. Zonot is the Maya word for a well. So is chen for a cave. And so that's what you're seeing there, cenote and chichén. They're talking about caves.
Thank you. Yes, there's two cenotes on the Chichen Itza side, on the site. One is the cenote sagrado, which is the sacred well, and that's the large one. And that, I think, was dredged by the man, I can't think of his name right now, who bought the hacienda Chichén in the early 1900s. But they found human bones, and they also found artifacts, gold cups and jade, right. and beautiful obsidian maybe. But I'm also told, we don't know if it's rumor or not, that that blue was the spiritual color of Kukulkan, and so they would paint the human sacrifice people
right.
the blue, the azul blue, which is a brilliant blue. I don't know where they got the color from. That would be interesting. Berries, I mean, I'm not sure. And anyway, so they would paint the people blue and then throw them into the sagrado alive. And if they lived, they got to live, and if not, and then there's another cenote at Chichen Itza, which is on the other side of the market. On the other side of the Temple of the Warriors is it's the Temple of the Warriors and the Temple of 1,000 Columns, which then turns into this beautiful mercado marketplace with 1,000 columns. And on the other side, which is still used as a marketplace, where the people are selling. Yes. And then there's a smaller cenote and what they think is an administration building. But down the road from Chichen Itza is like a 20, 30-minute walk from the site is the Il-Kil cenote. And that's, I think, the blue cenote. And I'm thinking maybe it's a little blue from...
Yeah, I wouldn't go there. I mean, the blue pigment it's a really fascinating story behind that, because you can only get this kind of blue pigment in certain areas. They've now identified those sources in Yucatan, so it's not a problem. They know they had to trade to get it, different sites. The cenotes are really interesting because of the geology of that region. You get these gigantic bodies of water underneath the ground in these caves, and so they're just absolutely beautiful to behold. And
with stalactites and stalagmites.
It's gorgeous, and people do go and enjoy swimming there now, and you probably did back then too. There's only one description that I know of the ceremony of what happened to use Cenote Sagrado as an oracle, and it comes from the books of Chilam Balam. And what they say is that in order to get the oracle to speak, they would take somebody and they would throw them into the well. And then what was supposed to happen was that person was supposed to, after going into the well, come out and speak the words of the oracle.
Wow.
So it wasn't that they were throwing them in there to kill them.
Right.
They were supposed to, that experience of getting chucked into the well
taps them
into something which allows them to then speak the words of the oracle. So, of course, getting chucked into a well like that means that some people probably died, which may explain some of the bones that were then dredged from the bottom. Also, the fact that it's this huge well, and